let's open a new file. So we'll basically start with, we have the previous preset right here. So we'll just open that. So we have the file right here. So let's make our workspace ready. So we'll only turn on what we basically require. So I need the layers right now to start with. So we'll just keep the layers open right here. So yeah, let's get started with this. So we have the layers right now, and we'll create a new layer right here. So we have a new layer, and let's change the color right now. We'll take a brush tool, right? So we are going to go here, click on the brush. We'll change the hardness to 100%, and we have a brush like this. So if I just click here, it's going to create a circle, right? Because it's just one brush click, and it is going to create a rounded circle here. So we have this. I'm going to change the color and keep doing this for a couple of times, right? So we'll select maybe blue. I'll do that. We will also create a red. Let's create maybe let's create a green, right? So we'll create a green, and we'll click this. So we have this shape right now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the plugins. I'm sorry, we haven't installed any plugins yet. I'm going to go to the filter, go to blur, and click on Gaussian blur, right? So we have this right now, and if I scale it up, you can see I'm creating a pretty interesting blend of colors here, which is really good. So I have this right now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and in this layer I'm going to click on the paint bucket. I'll fill it with a gray color. So I have this gray on the top layer. So we have this colors here, and on top of that we have the gray layer. We are using this gray layer to create some grains, right? A bit of a noise. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go to filter, go to noise, and add noise here. All right, so we can see that it created some noise in here. You can increase the amount or you can decrease the amount. So I think this is a decent grain right here. I'm going to click OK. And now this layer, through this layer, we cannot see what is underneath it. So what I'm going to do is, and we'll go here, I'll create a screen blending mode, and you can see a very interesting texture here, right? So without it, it's very smooth, and on top of that, we just added the green layer and created a very, very beautiful texture. This is a very trendy technique, right? So we have this as our background, and we are going to add a little more elements into it, some more elements into it. So what we'll do is we'll take some elements. We can create it by ourselves, or we'll download some elements from somewhere else. So what I'll do is I'll use a tool, right? I will go to this blob maker. So blob maker is a very interesting simple tool which will give you an option to create your blobs, right? Blobs are basically organic shapes with no consistency, right? So you can change the complexity of the shapes here, right? You can make it different. You can change the colors if you want. So you can make it in any color that you want. So I'm going to create a couple of blobs. So we have this right now. I'm going to download that. So this will be downloaded right in here. I will change the colors, and I will download a couple of blobs. I think that's enough. We have enough blobs right here. So we'll bring this into our design, right? So we'll go to our downloads and we'll see all the blobs which are here. I'll take all of this and I will drag and drop it into our document so we can see everything coming in here. So all the blobs are here right now. I'm just going to place it in, randomly in some of the areas here. So these are smart object, which basically means that you can scale it in any size that you want, right? So I'm going to just play with the scales of this. So I have this right now. I can take the grain right now and put it on top of it. So the grain texture will be added on everything, right? The grain texture is going to be applied on all the objects here. I'll reduce the grain a little bit. So yeah, looks good right now. So what I want to do is that the next step that I want to create, and this is where I want to try and create a glassmorphic effect on top of. We basically discussed a glassmorphism a while back when we were starting with raster and vector graphics. So glassmorphism is an effect where you emulate the look of a glass in any design, right? So we're going to try and do that here. It's a very simple technique, right? So what I will do is, before starting to do that technique, what I'm going to do is I will select the whole bunch here, like everything in here. I will duplicate this. So maybe what we can do is right now all of this we can actually put it into a group. So make sure that everything is selected here and you click on the group button. Now everything is into a group. So we can actually call it like the background right now. And I'm going to duplicate the background, right? So just duplicate group and it'll create a second copy of your background, right? It's the same thing. So what I will do right now is I'll right click on this background, right? What I want to basically do is that I want to sort of merge everything together. So I'll go down here and I'll click on merge group. So now what I have is the first image. So I can now turn off the background layer. This is just for our backup, right? So I have the entire thing right here in the actual layer order. When I merge the duplicate of the group, I created a raster layer. This is a flat layer right now that doesn't have any other data. You cannot move it around. So I'm going to take this and work on this from here, this point onwards. Now what I want to do is I want to create a glassmorphic effect on top of it. So the first thing that I want to do is I'll take a rectangle tool. So I have a rectangle tool right here. And in the rectangle tool, normally when you draw a rectangle, it will be, so for instance, I'm just going to show you that example. So normally when you draw a rectangle, you're going to get a box like this. So when you have this box, you can also change the corner radius of it, right? So if you see these circles in here, you can go to this and you can move it inside, drag it inside, and it'll create a corner which is smooth, right? You can also change it by changing the value right here, right? This, if you enter the value, it will change that also. So I think this is good enough. We have this shape round and it's good enough, but I don't need the border. So right now the fill color is gray, right? I'm going to change it to this particular color, and I don't need a stroke, so I'm going to turn it off. So there is no stroke, just this color right now. I'm going to scale this down again. So I guess this sort of works, right? We have this right now. We'll call it glass. So this is what we want. We have the glass layer right here. Okay. So what we can do is we can basically reduce the opacity, and we can see that this is how we'll see through it, but we want to make that effect a little more believable, right? So I'm going to now reduce the opacity of this. So maybe make it somewhat like this, right? Yeah. So this, I'll zoom in a bit so that you can see what is happening here, right? So I'll sort of do it like this. What I want is, when I'm looking through the glass, I want that blur to be affecting the background or what you actually see through it. So what I'm going to do here, again, a pretty simple technique. I'm going to control click on the thumbnail of this. I'm going to turn it off for a second. So we can now see that, and I'm selecting the background copy layer. So this selection of the card, we have selected on the background layer right now. We can go to filter, go to blur, and click on Gaussian blur. So we are blurring that particular area right now, just that area. So we are blurring it in sort of this way. Okay, I think this works. We have that, and we are going to put the glass on top of it. We can reduce the opacity even further down, so we can see a pretty interesting effect right here, right? So we put a transparent sheet on top of the background, and we can see through it. It's creating a pretty interesting effect here. So this is how the basics of glassmorphism works like this. So I can also add a little bit of highlight here. That's what I'm trying to do right now. So what I'll do here is I'm going to select this once again. So I created this. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call it highlight. Okay. So I have it like this. Nothing is selected. I will turn off maybe this also right now. All right. What I'm going to do here is I will go to edit right now. We'll create a stroke. This is something that we've tried in our class. So I'll go here and I'll select the white color here for the stroke. Maybe 2 pixels is too much. I'll create 1 pixel, and I want it on the outside of the card, right? And I will click OK. Now it created a line like this, right? So we have the glass and we have a line, which basically, so if I turn off everything, we can basically see that we have the background copy. On top of that, we have the card, and we have a highlight, which is basically a white stroke. So just the stroke is on this layer, right? So what I'm going to do is the highlight is not going to affect all the areas. It will affect only this side, so where the light is coming from. So what I'm going to take is I will take the eraser brush, and I'll sort of erase the highlight from the areas where light is not basically hitting. So now you can see that the highlight is only hitting this area, and it's sort of there. It is not there in the whole thing, right? So you can see in zoomed out view, you can see that this is how it looks right now, and it looks pretty cool. So that's the highlight layer, and this is the glass layer right now. Now we can sort of add some text into it, right? So maybe anything that you want can be added in here. I'm going to just take a line. I'll create a partition here. So I'll take the line tool and I will just drag a line like this here. So we have a line. I don't need a fill. I can change the stroke to something else. Maybe white is going to work. So created a line like this, and let's bring in some text, right? So this is definitely not going to work. So we'll change the typography to something simple. So let's go to a Avenir next typeface. Yeah, bring it down. So we have this right here, and I'm going to call it, let's say, contact us, right? Maybe, right? So we have this here. Now, what we'll do is, one more thing I wanted to show you here is, let me just, again, this is not a mandatory thing, but it's a good thing to know, right? So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to fill it with black on top of everything, right? So I'll sort of fill it with black. Everything is gone here. We are going to call it light effects. Okay. So what I will do here is I'll go to filter and we'll go to render. I think we have rendered a couple of things here, right? We did not everything. We actually used the tree filter here. There are a couple of things that you can render, create using this render. So the one that we are going to try right now is something called a lens flare, right? So lens flare is a very popular technique. If you Google search it, you will find a lot of images of lens flare. It's where a light directly hits the lens of a camera. It creates a streak, right? A light streak. That's a pretty interesting effect, and you can basically generate that with this tool, right? So I'm going to click on lens flare, and you will get a tool like this, right? You can control your lens flare, the brightness of this. You can sort of change it, and you can also click here and drag to decide the direction of the light and things like that. So there are a couple of types based on the lens types. You can change, you will get different lens layers, so you can just choose whatever you like. So I'm going to go with this. I'll sort of change it like maybe something like this. The brightness, I'll just bring it down. Yeah, I think this is okay. I'm going to click OK, and that lens flare that we just created is going to be coming in our composition, our black composition right now. Now, I want it on top of the design that we created, and it's very easy. You already know what to do right now. We just want to subtract the black. So all you have to do is change the blending mode to screen, right? So you can see the light effect right here. So if I move it, I can see the light effect. I'm sort of moving it, right? So I'm going to keep it somewhere here because this is where the light is sort of hitting, from. So I'm going to do it. I will Control T this. I will sort of rotate the light direction, and I'll put it right here. So you can see that the light is, hitting there, and it is sort of creating a flare right here, like that. Right, so it's a pretty interesting effect in certain cases. Doesn't work all the time, but here it works, right? We can see that the light is sitting here and it creates a highlight here, so it makes sense in this design, right? So we have the final design right here. So I hope you understood the process, how this effect can be created, and how easy it is to create a design layout like that. It's a very trendy style. So try this out, and try this on anything, right? Whatever you want to create, you try creating any kind of effects. You can actually do use an image instead of this background. But why I did this is that I wanted to, I wanted you to learn something new as well, like regarding the blob maker, regarding creating a texture, this particular background style that we created in here. So I hope you have learned something.